Procrastination. What is it? Anyone can look up the definition of procrastination on Wikipedia or elsewhere. However, most of us don't fully grasp what procrastination is and why it happens, which can lead us to take the wrong steps when facing it. If you're watching this video, chances are you're putting off something right now. Don't worry, almost all of us have procrastinated at some point in our lives. But since you're here with me today, I'll help you with everything I've got. First, I want you to know that up to 25% of people surveyed report that they regularly procrastinate. This figure climbs to 50% among college and university students. Because procrastination is so common, we often take it lightly. Oh, I'll listen to that podcast or read that book about procrastination later. What harm could it do, right? It's just a delay. In reality, procrastination is not just any ordinary delay. It's a specific type of delay that, by definition, is harmful. Researchers define procrastination as a form of voluntary, unnecessary delay of an important task you intend to complete. Did you know that up to 25% of people report that they regularly procrastinate? And among college and university students, this figure jumps to a staggering 50%. Because procrastination is so widespread, it's easy to dismiss it as a harmless habit. We often joke, "Oh, I'll read that book on procrastination tomorrow," or "I'll start that podcast on time management later." What harm could it do, right? It's just a small delay. But here's the truth, procrastination isn't just a harmless delay, it's a specific kind of delay that can have significant consequences. Researchers define procrastination as the voluntary, unnecessary delay of an important task that you intend to complete, despite knowing that this delay will likely lead to negative outcomes. It's not just about putting off tasks. It's about doing so knowing that this avoidance can hurt you or others. This behavior is particularly insidious because it's not just about managing time poorly. It's about a deeper resistance to starting tasks that we find daunting, unpleasant, or anxiety-inducing. Imagine you have an important report due at work, or perhaps a major exam looming. You know you should start, but instead, you find yourself scrolling through social media, cleaning the house, or binge-watching TV shows. Deep down, you're aware that this delay will only make things worse, causing more stress and potentially impacting your performance. Yet, you still choose to put it off. This is the essence of procrastination. Consider the story of Lisa. Lisa was an excellent student, known for her vast knowledge and intellectual prowess. She had a knack for understanding complex theories and had earned multiple degrees. But despite her brilliance, Lisa struggled with a crippling habit of procrastination that seeped into every corner of her life. In her professional world, Lisa was a perfectionist. She aimed for flawless execution in every project she undertook, which ironically led to an overwhelming fear of starting anything that might fall short of her high standards. This fear fueled her procrastination. She would delay beginning even the simplest tasks, letting them pile up until she was engulfed in a mountain of unfinished work. The stress of last-minute rushes became her constant companion. At her job, Lisa was often seen as someone who under-delivered. Despite her potential, she would miss critical deadlines, scrambling to complete tasks in a haphazard, hurried manner. Her colleagues began to lose faith in her reliability. Meetings were missed, reports were delayed, and crucial projects suffered. The quality of her work deteriorated, and opportunities for career advancement slipped through her fingers. Her superiors, recognizing her intellect but frustrated by her inability to deliver consistently, eventually sidelined her from key projects. Lisa's story aligns closely with much of the research on the impacts of procrastination. Research corroborates the idea that procrastination can severely damage one's professional reputation. A comprehensive study involving over 22,000 U.S. employees revealed that frequent procrastinators often face job instability. The study found that procrastinators are perceived as less dependable, and this perception can lead to fewer opportunities for promotions or important projects. In professional environments where teamwork and reliability are crucial, procrastinators are often sidelined, their contributions undervalued despite their potential. In the same study, it was found that with every incremental increase in procrastination, annual income decreased by an average of $15,000. For Lisa, who constantly deferred her tasks and missed deadlines, this translated into missed promotions and salary raises. Her habit of delaying critical work not only affected her immediate financial situation but also had long-term implications for her career trajectory and earning potential. On a personal level, Lisa's procrastination also took a toll. Her constant stress over impending deadlines and unfinished tasks left little room for personal fulfillment and relaxation. Friends and family grew accustomed to her perpetual busyness and last-minute cancellations. This strained her relationships and led to feelings of isolation and frustration. Studies on procrastination also highlight its detrimental effects on personal well-being. Procrastinators often experience higher levels of stress, anxiety, and depression. The act of delaying important tasks creates a cycle of guilt and shame, which in turn makes it even harder to take action. This vicious cycle was evident in Lisa's life, where her procrastination not only affected her career but also eroded her personal happiness and well-being. Procrastination is a pervasive and often misunderstood challenge that affects many aspects of our lives. Despite its well-documented harmful effects, people frequently fall into the procrastination trap. But why? What drives us to delay tasks that we know are important? Many people quickly attribute procrastination to laziness or poor time management, but these explanations barely scratch the surface of a much deeper issue. At first glance, procrastination might appear as simple laziness or a failure to manage time effectively. We see missed deadlines, unfinished projects, and a pile of tasks left to the last minute. From the outside, it looks like a lack of motivation or poor organizational skills. However, these visible signs are merely the symptoms of procrastination, not its root cause. Consider the person who seems perpetually busy yet fails to accomplish what truly matters. They may spend hours meticulously cleaning their kitchen, organizing their workspace, or engaging in endless, low-priority tasks. This behavior creates an illusion of productivity while the important work remains untouched. It's not that they are inactive or lack energy. Rather, they are avoiding the tasks that truly demand their attention. It's crucial to distinguish procrastination from laziness. Laziness implies a state of inertia where there is no desire to engage in any activity. It is characterized by a lack of energy and enthusiasm, leading to inactivity. In contrast, procrastinators are often quite busy, just not with what they should be doing. When people procrastinate, they might dive into tasks that provide a sense of accomplishment without addressing the main goal. For instance, a student might reorganize their study space instead of starting an important research paper. A professional might spend hours responding to non-urgent emails rather than tackling a crucial project. This behavior stems from a complex interplay of emotions and cognitive processes rather than simple indolence. Procrastination is often misunderstood as a simple case of laziness or poor time management. However, if we delve deeper into the psychological underpinnings of this behavior, we find that its roots are more intricately tied to our emotional responses, particularly how we manage negative emotions. From a psychological perspective, every behavior we exhibit has an origin story. For procrastination, this story is deeply intertwined with how we cope with emotions. Specifically, procrastination is often a way of dealing with negative emotions such as anxiety, fear, or stress. Consider the experience of a writer I once spoke with. He confessed that, as a student, he would rather clean his entire apartment than study for an upcoming exam. Cleaning, which he normally despised, suddenly became his go-to activity whenever exam stress loomed. This might seem counterintuitive, but it served a psychological purpose. It made him feel productive while avoiding the stressful task of studying. Cleaning provided temporary relief from the anxiety and guilt associated with his exam preparation. His procrastination wasn't a sign of a flawed character or a lack of discipline, it was a coping mechanism for his stress. This writer's story sheds light on a critical insight. Procrastination is less about a failure in time management and more about managing emotions, or rather, avoiding them. When faced with a daunting task that triggers negative emotions, our natural inclination might be to avoid those feelings by diverting our attention to more comforting activities. This can explain why people often engage in tasks that, while productive in another context, are ultimately a form of distraction from what really needs to be done. Imagine a student who has a paper due the next day but spends hours organizing their desk instead. They aren't lazy. They're trying to avoid the anxiety associated with writing the paper. The act of organizing gives them a sense of control and accomplishment, temporarily masking their stress. When we view procrastination through the lens of emotional management, it becomes clear why emotions play a pivotal role in whether we start and continue to procrastinate. Negative emotions such as fear of failure, self-doubt, and overwhelming stress are powerful deterrents to action. To mitigate these feelings, we might gravitate toward tasks that offer immediate gratification or a sense of achievement, even if they're unrelated to our goals. This is why someone might spend hours on minor tasks like sorting their music library or alphabetizing spices instead of tackling more critical work. These activities serve as emotional comfort zones, providing a temporary escape from the pressure of more significant, anxiety-inducing tasks. Understanding procrastination as an emotional coping mechanism rather than a time management failure shifts the focus from blaming ourselves for being lazy to addressing the underlying emotional triggers. It's not about a lack of willpower or motivation. It's about how we handle our emotions in response to challenging tasks. For instance, perfectionists often procrastinate because the fear of not meeting their own high standards creates immense pressure. Instead of facing the potential disappointment of an imperfect outcome, they delay starting the task. This avoidance reduces their immediate stress but perpetuates a cycle of procrastination and guilt. Imagine this scenario: you have a looming task that's causing you a lot of stress. The thought of it weighs heavily on your mind, and you're consumed with worry about how you'll handle it. In that moment, you don't feel capable of confronting those overwhelming emotions. So, what do? You set the task aside, and almost instantly, you feel a wave of relief. Just like that, you've managed your negative emotions by procrastinating. It's a quick, easy fix, and for now, it feels incredibly effective. Procrastination offers an immediate escape from discomfort. When we're faced with a daunting task, postponing it provides a short-term emotional payoff. This temporary relief is why procrastination is so seductive. It's not about being lazy or poorly organized. It's about finding a quick fix for our emotional turmoil. Think back to a time when you had a task that felt daunting. Perhaps it was a project at work that you had never tackled before, or a personal goal that seemed out of reach. As you thought about it, you started to imagine all the difficulties you might encounter, the stress, the time it would consume, and the potential for failure. The more you thought about it, the more anxious you became. Eventually, the idea of facing this task became so overwhelming that you decided to put it off. You found something else to do that felt more manageable, more within your comfort zone. For a brief moment, the anxiety lifted, and you felt a sense of relief. But here's the twist: when you finally did get around to completing the task, it wasn't as bad as you had imagined. It didn't take as much time as you feared, it wasn't as stressful, and you might have even found some parts of it enjoyable. This common experience highlights a crucial insight into why we procrastinate. We often create exaggerated emotional barriers that are far greater than the reality of the task itself. We have a tendency to turn small tasks into towering emotional mountains. This transformation occurs because we're not particularly good at predicting how we'll feel in the future when confronted with these tasks. Psychological research has shown that people frequently overestimate how unpleasant they will find future events, a concept known as affective forecasting. For instance, when faced with an unfamiliar or challenging task, we often anticipate the worst-case scenarios. We imagine ourselves struggling, failing, or becoming stressed out beyond measure. These exaggerated fears and anxieties can paralyze us, making the task seem insurmountable. Procrastination becomes a way to avoid the anticipated emotional discomfort, even though the actual experience of the task is often much less severe than we predict. This misprediction of our emotional responses can trap us in a cycle of procrastination. Each time we avoid a task to escape the stress we expect it to bring, we reinforce the habit of procrastination. The immediate relief we feel from postponing the task serves as a powerful reward, encouraging us to repeat the behavior the next time we face a similar situation. Over time, this cycle can become deeply ingrained, We start to associate the mere thought of certain tasks with anxiety and discomfort, leading us to avoid them automatically. The more we procrastinate, the more our anxiety builds, creating a vicious cycle that becomes increasingly difficult to break. Interestingly, when we finally confront these tasks, they are rarely as difficult or stressful as we anticipated. The dread and anxiety that kept us from starting were based on an inaccurate forecast of our future emotions. Once we begin the task, we often find that it's manageable, sometimes even enjoyable. The sense of accomplishment and relief we experience after completing it can be immensely satisfying, far outweighing the brief comfort we gain from procrastinating. With an familiar but important task to complete, and the mere thought of it makes you anxious. Instead of diving in, you decide to put it off and engage in something less daunting. Maybe you clean the kitchen or scroll through social media. For a moment, you feel a wave of relief, as if a weight has been lifted off your shoulders. But this relief is fleeting. Soon, it's replaced by a gnawing sense of guilt, shame, and self-blame. You start to regret not starting the task earlier and berate yourself for letting it slide once again. This pattern is the essence of procrastination, a habit that thrives on temporary relief but ultimately leads to more stress and emotional turmoil. When we procrastinate, we're essentially using it as a coping mechanism to manage our immediate emotional discomfort. The relief we feel after deciding to postpone a task acts as a reward, reinforcing the procrastinating behavior. This reinforcement creates a vicious cycle. The more we procrastinate, the more we rely on it to ease our stress and anxiety, even though it never truly solves the underlying problem. In psychological terms, this is known as negative reinforcement. When we procrastinate, we remove the immediate discomfort associated with starting a task, which reinforces the avoidance behavior. However, this quick fix only leads to long-term consequences. The task remains undone, and the pressure to complete it builds, creating a loop of avoidance and stress. The initial sense of relief from procrastinating can feel deceptively satisfying. It's like a breath of fresh air after holding your breath for too long. But this relief is temporary and soon replaced by a cascade of negative emotions. Guilt creeps in, whispering that you should have started earlier. Shame follows, making you feel inadequate for not being able to tackle your responsibilities head-on. You might even blame yourself harshly, thinking you're lazy or incapable. These feelings don't just disappear, they linger, coloring your perception of the task and making it even more daunting the next time you think about it. This added layer of negative emotion intensifies your aversion to the task, increasing the likelihood that you will procrastinate again. It's a downward spiral that becomes harder to escape each time you repeat the cycle. So how do we navigate this emotional maze and find our way out of the procrastination trap? Before we can tackle procrastination effectively, we need to understand its emotional roots. Procrastination isn't just about being lazy or bad at managing time. It's about avoiding tasks that provoke negative emotions, fear, anxiety, self-doubt, or even boredom. These emotions can paralyze us, making even the simplest tasks seem insurmountable. One powerful way to combat procrastination is to reframe how we view our tasks. Instead of seeing them as chores or obligations, we can try to find meaning and personal value in them. This approach is rooted in the idea that when we understand the significance of what we're doing, we're more likely to feel motivated and less overwhelmed by negative emotions. Ask yourself questions like, why is this task important to me? Or what will I learn or gain from completing it? This reflective process helps you connect the task to your broader goals and values, transforming it from a source of dread into an opportunity for growth and achievement. For example, if you're procrastinating on writing a report, think about how completing it could enhance your professional skills, contribute to your team's success, or even provide a sense of personal accomplishment. By linking the task to meaningful outcomes, you create a positive emotional context that can diminish procrastination's grip. Ironically, one of the most effective ways to reduce procrastination is through self-compassion and forgiveness. This might seem counterintuitive. Shouldn't we be harder on ourselves to get things done? But research shows that self-compassion can actually boost motivation and reduce the negative feelings that fuel procrastination. When you procrastinate, it's easy to fall into a spiral of self-criticism, thinking you're lazy or incompetent. This harsh inner dialogue only adds to your emotional burden, making it even harder to start the task. Instead, try practicing self-compassion. Acknowledge that everyone struggles with procrastination at times and that it's a part of being human. Forgive yourself for past procrastination and understand that it doesn't define your ability to succeed. Self-compassion involves treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend in a similar situation. It means recognizing that mistakes and setbacks are part of the learning process, not a reflection of your worth. When you approach procrastination with a forgiving and compassionate mindset, you reduce the emotional weight it carries and create a more supportive environment for taking action. Overcoming procrastination is not about eliminating it entirely from your life, it's about understanding its emotional roots and finding strategies that work for you. By reframing tasks with meaning, practicing self-compassion, and implementing practical strategies, you can break the cycle of procrastination and move towards your goals with confidence and purpose. Finally, if you're looking for the most direct methods to overcome procrastination, click on the video that's appearing on the screen right now. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to support me. If you enjoy this topic, let me know in the comments below. Thank you, and see you in the next videos.